had to run a mile when they're in 8th grade. Worst day of my life. Literally, I remember I dreaded it for weeks until that day came around. So 8th grade, we all line up on the track. Coach blows a whistle. We start running around the track. 10 minutes goes by. I remember kids start finishing. People start finishing. And I remember looking and be like, are they on the same track as me? And then 15 minutes goes by. Most people are done. 20 minutes goes by. Coach blows the whistle again. I'm the only kid out there. I've slowed down to a walk. I waddle myself in. And just enough time to see her right next to my name, 2 letters. And what she wrote was N-A. And I said, what's that mean? She goes, not able. I was 14 years old at the time. And that fear gripped me for years. And now, obviously what happened was in high school, I lost some weight when I was in high school. I got involved with sports, got involved with the right mentorship. But those same behavioral problems that happened spilled over the rest of my life. So when I was in 11th grade, I got kicked out of that high school. And then when I was in 12th grade, who's ever been arrested before? Woohoo! All these things that you love. Yeah, sorry to call you out, but all those things that, charged or arrested, right? Who's ever been in the back of a car, squad car? Yeah. So all those things that happened, right? But then what happened was I started making small changes. Every single day, and obviously those things kind of turned around. And so I come from the train of thought that in life, if you do something that other people struggle with, if you do something that other people find difficult, for in my case was overcome obesity as a teenager, something I still struggle with every single day. But in my opinion, you have a moral and a social obligation to turn around and help the other people who do that as well. So that's why I wrote a book about it. It's called The Power to Change. It's about making small changes every single day. And that same spirit of helping people, doing different things, and kind of paving the way and helping the person behind you is what brings us here today. And so the Sharp Retention team, we are the #1 team in the world for Cutco closing gifts. We'll do about $2.1 million worth of revenue this year. What's most exciting about that, that's about double the production of any other team. But what's most exciting is about 65% of that comes from repeat or referral-based business. Who in the room would be interested in building a business that's even 50% repeat or referral-based business? Yes or yes? Yes. Right? And so it comes from that commitment, that mindset. And so what we've done at Sharp Retention, what I'm here to do today is share with you our 7 keys to commit to that massive mindset. The 7 best things that we found that have gotten us to build a business that's over 50% referral and recommendation. So here I am, right? I'm finishing the race. 20 minutes goes by. I'm gripped by fear. I cannot finish. And then for 10 more years, I don't run. So 10 years later, I'm at a Cutco conference, actually. I'm in Miami. And my roommate at the time, this guy named Fabian Valencia. He's a established triathlete, marathon endurance sport runner. And I was in pretty good shape. I'd never, still 8, 10 years later, never run more than a mile. I did some sports. And so we're sitting in the hotel room one day. He came back from a run, and he's like, yeah, we should go for a run sometime. And I told him, I was like, yeah, I don't really do that. And he's like, what are you talking about? And I told him my story. I'll never forget the look of disbelief on his face as he explained to an endurance athlete that you can't run. And he's just like, come on, let's go. We'll go right now. And I remember at the time thinking, I was like, what do you mean? You can't go for a run. You just went for a run. Like it blew my mind. And yeah, so we ran 2 miles. We ran down Collins Boulevard. We ran back. So I'm in the hotel lobby, and I'm sprawled out on the lobby floor because it was like 100 degrees in Miami, and it's a cold floor. So I'm dead. I'm lying out. I'm drinking the cucumber water. It's great. But laying there in that hotel lobby, Fabian made me do something. And it made me challenge myself, something that I'm going to challenge y'all to today, made me make a commitment. And that commitment was to sign up for my first half marathon. So anyone ever done half marathon, full marathon, pizza run? I wasn't familiar with pizza runs very often as a kid. But yeah, so he made me sign up for it. At the time, I'd never done it before. I'd never run more than 2.1 miles. But really what a commitment is, and in this case, we're going to define it, as a commitment is an obligation that restricts freedom of action. It's an obligation that restricts freedom of action. I want you to think about some of the commitments that you've made to yourself this year, to your friends, to your family, to Kyle, to your team, to your staff, whoever it is, whatever those commitments are, but it restricts your freedom of action. Meaning, if you are committed, in my case, to doing a half marathon, I am now committed to running 4 days a week for a couple miles. If you are committed to doubling your GCI, like you told Kyle in the beginning of the year you are committed to doing, you are now restricted to going out 3 nights a week for your happy hours. You are restricted to being here in the office every single day. Whatever it is, it's an obligation that restricts your freedom of action, right? If you're committed to your relationship, you are restricted to deleting your Tinder and Bumble apps from your phone. It's an obligation that restricts your freedom of action, right? So what happens, right? I sign up for this half marathon. Fast forward, 2 months later, it's the day before the race. I'm ready. I told people about it. I trained, blood, sweat, tears, bloody feet, bleeding from the nipples. It's gross, but that was my life. And so I'm ready. It's the day before the race. You put your shoes out at 6:45. You been there? Bloody nipples?
You gotta have nip strips.
Yeah, they're brutal. It's brutal, man. Mike's like, I was out before, but I'm definitely out now.
Now I'm really out.
Yeah. Yeah, it's something they don't tell you about it when you're buying the shoes. So it's the day before the race. It's a La Jolla half marathon. La Jolla half marathon. The race starts at 8:15. The race starts at 8:15. I must leave my house by 6:45, ready. Shoes are out, ready to go. Go to bed. You know that feeling? We've all been there before, where you wake up and you open your eyes, and the very first thought you have before you can even look at your clock is that there's too much light in the room for what time it is right now. It's 7:46. So I boom, spring out of bed, I'm freaking out, run all over my house. I call my dad. I'm like, what do I do? He's like, just go. So I grab my bag. I was living in PB at the time. I made it from PB to Del Mar in 22 minutes. It's a 9-minute drive. Or excuse me, I made it in 9 minutes, a 22-minute drive. Not very proud of it. A little bit proud of it. But I screeched in the parking lot, right? Come around the corner. There's no one there. Everyone's gone, except 4 guys. And they're taking down the sound equipment. It's about 8:35, 8:40. And I'm just standing in that parking lot, and I was broken. I felt like I wanted to cry. I had friends waiting for me at the finish line. I've been telling friends for months this was going to be a thing I do. I made this commitment. I've made so many small commitments along the way to get me to this point. And I'm standing there, I'm thinking, and something happened to me right then in that parking lot. And it was something that's resonated and had an exponential effect on the rest of my entire life. And it's something that I'm going to invite you in just a second to do right here, right now, in this room. And what that is, it's harnessing the power of the decision. Can anyone tell me, does anyone actually know the Greek root word of decision? If you break the word down, the C-I-S in there, what that actually means. Anybody?
Indecision, to separate.
There it is. Yeah, exactly. To sever, right? To cut off. Meaning, if you've actually made a decision, meaning when you make a decision, when you say, I am going to do 20 transactions this year no matter what, you have come to a fork in the road where doing 20 transactions is happening and not doing it is happening. And you built a freaking wall where that one is. There is no other path. You have cut it off. There is no other way. If you've made a decision to lose a certain amount of weight by the end of August, there is no other way of making it happen. This is the only way. So I'm standing there in this parking lot. I'm broken. I'm about to cry. I got friends at the finish line waiting for me. Start harnessing this power of the decision, of all the commitments I made leading up to that point, of all the commitments you've made that got you here to this meeting today. And I look up and I made the decision that I wasn't going to be that person anymore. There was the person who was not able to run. And I look up at the guy who's taking down the sound equipment. I'm like, they left? And he goes, they left. And I'm like, which way did they go? And he points. I just took off running. So I'm running about down Camino Del Mar for about 4 or 5 miles. And I'll never forget when I saw her. Who's her? Lady in last place, right? She's she's power walking. They're picking up the cones behind her. I'll never forget. I run by. I'm like, I'm not gonna be last. So I finished. I cruised through. I ended up doing another one the next weekend. It was this Wild Animal Park half marathon. But what happened right there in that parking lot transcended the rest of my entire life, because it wasn't just doing the La Jolla half marathon today or that day. Just like the decision you're going to make in this room today isn't just about the listing presentation that you're doing later today. It's not about the 30 phone calls that you're going to make once this meeting ends. It's about the long-term effect for it. So I ran another half marathon, and then I ran another one, and then I ran another one. Eventually, I ended up writing a book about these different things that has an impact on people. And then this marathon, this specific one right here, is special. This is the 2015 Rock and Roll Marathon. You can see by my finger here, I won first place. Nah, I'm just kidding. Nobody ever believes that. But I was about 2 hours behind that guy. But I was number one in my heart. But no, this specific one, so side note here, in terms of the things that you can do outside of your business, because my life philosophy comes to do more stuff and help more people. So side note on my passion project, and ties into this as well, is in 2010 when the earthquake happened in Haiti. Y'all remember that? It's terrible. Some friends of mine and I got together, long story short, and we built a medical clinic. It was a $2.1 million project. It took us 6 years to complete. And on the 7-year anniversary of the earthquake, we actually opened the doors to that clinic on that day. It was the best day of my life. It's my favorite building in the entire world. What happened during that race was we raised $4,800 from that. But just right then, I realized that happened right then in that parking lot the first time, just like it happens in this room. But right then I realized, I can start doing, I know it sounds kind of weird, physical things for money, but I can do, I know. I mean, I always knew that, but you know, I can run for money too. No, so I found I can. So I found out, right? So I started thinking, I started going big. And so that evolved from that same decision in that parking lot to go out and take outside, run off the side of Camino Del Mar. In 2020, I'm gonna ride my bicycle from Washington, D.C. to San Diego, to Fiesta Island, to raise money for the medical clinic, to speak to young people along the way. And it's a pretty big undertaking, but it all starts right then and there. And it's all about thinking small, or thinking big and acting small, right? We all greatly overestimate what we can do in a year and underestimate how much action we can actually get done in a day. So this is the Ride for Hope 2020. I can send this all out to everybody. Don't worry about reading it all. This is the medical clinic right here. It's beautiful. But the question then is, what decisions, what things are we ready to cut off today? What things are you ready to make a decision and build that wall that you already made a commitment to? In your mind, you're thinking of it right now. The things that you said, you probably wrote it down. You told people about it, hopefully. But what commitments are you ready to revisit, and what decisions are you ready to make? And I'm in the next 15 minutes or so, I'm gonna give you our 7 best keys to do that, to really get into that massive mindset, because it's not a lack of resources, right? It's not a lack of tools, it's not a lack of programs, it's a lack of commitment, a lack of mindset. So the first one, it's pretty simple. I know you've heard something like this before, but I wanna change your frame of thinking on it, is it's to think big. Okay, think big. So thinking big, I love this quote, shoot for the moon, if you miss, you'll land among the stars. But thinking big, it's not an obligation, as maybe a manager or a mentor might have told you, you gotta think bigger, you have to think bigger. My friends, it's a responsibility. Because, why is it a responsibility? Because you have the opportunity to do so. I'd like you to remember this or write it down, is that thinking small serves nobody. Thinking small serves nobody. What do I mean by that? Look, here's the reality pill, folks, you're ready to take. If you woke up this morning, first of all, how about that, right? Best day of your life. You woke up, you opened 2 eyes, you took 2 legs, you swung them out of your bed was on the floor, that floor was in a house, and that house was in the United States, let alone Southern California. My friends, you won. You have a responsibility to think big, because there's half the people on this earth dying for or killing for the same exact right that you had when you woke up and poured yourself a glass of water this morning.